Welcome back to my interviews with speakers at the Human Design Conference. Today I have Lindsay Tucker. Lindsay is a reflector, and I can't wait to dive in and hear what she's going to tell us about reflectors today. She is speaking at the Human Design Conference, and so if you don't have your ticket, grab your ticket because you won't want to miss this. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here.
So you said something offline, which I love. You are teaching reflectors to live in a world that is created by the other 99%. Say exactly what you said to me. I loved how you phrased it.
Yeah, so my company, Reflector by Design, helps human design reflectors live their true selves in a world created by the other 99% because we're just so different from every other type, basically in every aspect of how we operate. So a lot of reflectors find themselves feeling a little bit lost and they're looking for reasons why. And we have to talk about how different reflectors are as lunar beings from the other types.
As lunar beings, what does that mean?
Well, our strategy is to wait 28 days to make a decision, and that's because we're so connected to the moon, and the moon will move through all 64 gates in a very short period of time, 28 days. And that means we get to experience the full range of emotions, feelings, sensations, as part of making a decision. And it would suit us best if we wait for that full 28 days to see all those ups and downs and really feel through what that decision might look like for us. And so, it's a hard thing in this day and time to say I need 28 days to make a decision. So we have a few strategies for helping reflectors deal with that because it is not easy.
Wow. I've never thought about it before that, the world is created by 99%, the other 99% of the population. If you were going to create the world, what would you do differently as a reflector?
I think I would have reflectors play a more central role. And even though we are just 1% of the population, the role we play amongst all the other designs is pretty significant. And it might help to let others know when they are living in alignment versus living outside of alignment. So we could perhaps scale back on some of this hustle culture and the hurry, hurry, hurry to get it done if we just had a bit of information and input from reflectors who can help to slow things down a little bit. I think that would really help.
Wow. Do reflectors tend to congregate in certain professions or certain places of the world or certain hobbies or anything where they feel more seen and comfortable or not? Am I making an assumption there?
What tends to happen is reflectors are conditioned or they are living by other people's expectations of what they should do. So, for example, I was taught to go to university and get a career that I could stay in for my entire life. And that just doesn't work for a reflector because we are shapeshifters. We're meant to live differently every single day. And so you can imagine how limiting it might be to have one single career for your entire life. So what reflectors tend to do if they're living in alignment or they're working towards that, they've probably had a lot of different jobs, a lot of different hobbies. They'll be very interested for a short amount of time, and then maybe it's no longer important to them, so they move on to something else. And what I found is some reflectors, they get kind of stuck in living those expectations. So that's when kind of burnout will happen and they'll end up in a career path or with things that no longer serve them way past when they should have sort of exited.
So everybody has that conditioning at some point, like, go to university and get a job. Well, not
Yeah.
everybody, but a lot of us have. And yet, when I hear you describe that, it sounds like me. I'm a manifesting generator, right? It sounds, doing lots of different things, losing interest, all those kinds of things. So dig in a little bit because I think everyone listening has probably studied some human design, but there's not always a lot of discussion about reflectors. So when you talk about that, interested in different things and changing jobs. What's the different energy there with a reflector as opposed to like a manifesting generator who I rose my hand. I'm like, oh, that sounds like me though. Wait, right? What's the difference?
I would say one of the differences, the reflector sign of alignment is surprise. And a lot of times we don't know what that surprise is going to look like. And so it may be getting into a career thinking that it's going to be fulfilling and then going off into an entirely different direction and being really wowed by how captivated you are by this other thing. And that may apply to manifesting generators as well. It's not going to be unique just to reflectors, but it is the reflector experience on a career level, on a hobby level, and just kind of day to day. Like some things may really grab a reflector's attention one day and they leave it the next. And it is a bit of being able to go with the flow and understand when you're kind of holding on to those things because somebody expects you to versus when it's something that is really of true interest to you.
Wow. Okay. What specifically are you going to help us all with at conference? So only 1% of the population are reflectors. And even if there's only 1% at conference, it's not going to be very many people. So how are you going to keep all of us engaged at conference? Are you going to talk about how we find reflectors or how we interact with the reflectors? Tell me your game plan.
So, one thing I talk a lot with my reflectors about is understanding the stories we tell ourselves and how to grow from them. And we talk about it in the context of being a reflector and how we reflect other people. And so we tend to be chameleons and kind of take on the characteristics and traits of other people. But I'm going to be sharing that on a bigger scale because each and every one of us walks by a mirror at least once a day, and something might catch your eye and you think, man, I look tired today. And then a whole story starts to generate about that. And so, what I want to do is that's just kind of a superficial example, but I want to really walk through these identity statements that we have for ourselves, the I am statements, and see where we're holding on to things and where we can kind of let them go. And ultimately, it's about choice and it's about deciding who you want to be. And a lot of that comes back down to staying present and in the moment, which no matter what type you are, I'm sure there have been times when you've gotten caught up with a task or something that's stressing you out, and just coming back to present and kind of releasing those stories. That's where I'm going to be going.
Wow. Okay. I can't wait to dive into that, hear about that some more. How did you first get started in human design?
Well, I discovered human design during the very beginning of the COVID pandemic, and it was a real eye opener for me. I think I didn't really talk to anybody for a few days after finding out I was a reflector. It was just such a validating experience. And then after I learned that, I kind of saw my life through a new lens in the rearview mirror and thought about every experience I'd had from this new reflector lens. And it was just jarring a little bit, but also it made me say to myself, okay, now what am I going to be doing with this information? Now that I know this, what's going to change moving forward? And for me, the first thing that had to change was the way I made decisions because I was making decisions way too quickly and then feeling a sense of dread and regret and just ultimate disappointment with them. And that's how, once I started learning about it and talking to people about it and connecting with other reflectors, we started sharing these common experiences. And that's when I really wanted to reach out and start helping other reflectors and other people learn about their human design and how to use it in real life.
And what's super cool is you haven't been doing this very long, but you have grown a community in that short time. And that's one of the reasons we're attracted to you because what you're doing is working. I'm not saying growing your community is like the be all and end all, but it is a measure of the impact you're having. And so you're able to have a big impact in a small amount of time, following your design, taking your own advice, digging into your own decision-making process, as well as everything else that's going on in your chart. So congratulations to you.
Thank
What
you.
is one thing you would like to leave with our audience with in terms of how those of the 99% who are not reflectors, what should we or what could we do differently when we're interacting with people and we may not know they're a reflector, but we can feel there's an energy difference there?
My biggest suggestion, if you are interacting with someone who's a reflector, or maybe you know someone who's a reflector, but they're not very tuned into their design, one of the easiest things that you can do to help them out is to ask them what they need to make a decision. Because sometimes it's more time, sometimes it's a soundboard where they can just, bounce ideas without someone trying to push their views on it. And, sometimes it's just alone time. And that might make all the difference in the world. And so I think there are some people who have never met a reflector in real life. So I'm not going to assume that everybody's going to rush out and go chat with all their reflector friends because we're a pretty small bunch. But just having a little bit more awareness and understanding of what reflectors do in the world. And even though we may be quiet sometimes, we are here to help. And our greatest goal is just to help everybody live their truest human design.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being a guest today. And I can't wait to meet you in person and talk more about human design. Thanks again, Lindsay.
Thank you.